Let's keep moving. How about John Ratcliffe, who was picked for CIA director? You want to talk about the scum of the earth. Meet John Ratcliffe. Well, Ratcliffe works hand in hand with Mike Pompeo. Remember how Trump came out and said he's not going to bring Mike Pompeo into his thing? That doesn't mean he's not bringing Mike Pompeo's stooges in. Ratcliffe works hand in hand with Mike Pompeo, including for the renewal of FISA 702, which was also something Trump supported and signed when he was in office as well. FISA 702, of course, is the absolutely ridiculous constitutional privacy destroying spyware surveillance system on us. And he was, of course, teamed up with Mike Pompeo to make sure that it gets in. He also lobbied alongside Pompeo and Bill Barr. You guys remember Bill Barr? I did a lot of stuff on him, deep state as they come, for Mike Johnson to renew. Well, let's take a look, shall we? What we got going on here? This is coming from U.S. Representative Mike Turner. It says, I'm proud to have the support of Mike Pompeo, Bill Barr, John Ratcliffe, Robert O'Brien, and Devin Nunes on H.R. 661, the FISA Reform and Reauthorization Act, which passed House Intel today. They wrote an open letter to Speaker Mike Johnson, encouraging him to support our legislation. You can see it here. Mr. Speaker, as former officials who have either worked for or with the intelligence community, we write today with serious concerns that a critical tool to help keep Americans safe, right, will cease to be available to the men and women who protect the United States each day. At the end of this month, Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, will sunset. This is one of the most critical tools of the intelligence community at its disposal. Section 702 must be reauthorized and evidenced by FBI's prior flagrant abuses. FISA must be reformed. Not reformed in the way that you're thinking of rolling back things that affect us. No. They want more advancement on it. It must be reformed, like including congressional oversight and access to FISA court transcripts rather than warrant requirement. Remember, that was one of the big things where they no longer require a warrant to look at your private data. Yeah. Ratcliffe was in favor of that, working alongside Pompeo and Bill Barr. So what did... hold on, let's see, just make sure that respectfully signed Pompeo, Barr, Ratcliffe, O'Brien, and Nunes. And what did Mike Johnson do? Well, he folded like a cheap suit. Not really, because he's part of the whole group too. He didn't fold. He was just told what to do, and so he did it. I went after Mike Johnson after that. I did an entire video about him. He's deep state too. He's as deep state as they come. But that's not all. Let's take a look at what else he's got going. Yeah, there's George W. Go out and go shopping, everybody. Patriot Act. Yeah, we can see here in the George W. Bush administration, Ratcliffe was initially appointed as chief of anti-terrorism and national security unit within the U.S. Department of Justice. That was during the 9/11 stuff. Before being judicially appointed as the U.S. attorney, the highest federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of Texas. During his DOJ tenure, Director Ratcliffe, and also elected to serve 4 terms as the nonpartisan mayor of Heath, Texas. Also, from 2008 until 2014, Director Ratcliffe was a founding partner with former U.S. Attorney General John Ashcroft. Oh, I'm sure some people recognize that name. Of Ashcroft Sutton Ratcliffe LLP, a firm providing strategic legal advice on national and international security issues. If you guys don't know who Ashcroft is, he was the Attorney General during the time of endorsing, creating, and pushing forward the Patriot Act. And so Ratcliffe there created a private security firm with him. Meet your CIA director. I don't know about you, but I'm putting that in swamp as well. Again, it's up to you. It's up to you. Let's just keep going, though. He also chose Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. This guy's interesting. There's nothing like, super deep state about him, but he's not fit for the job. He's coming from his current position of Fox News host. Yeah, that's interesting. Pete Hegseth, chosen for Secretary of Defense, is coming from his current position of Fox News host, and prior was part of the National Guard. Now, I'm not taking anything away from what he did. I believe he earned 2 Bronze Stars, so I'm not taking anything away from that. However, how does National Guard qualify you to run the national defense? It doesn't. He's not qualified. He's not. Again, not taking away for what he has done, but in no way, shape, or form is he qualified or prepared to take on National Guard unit to full-on defense of an entire country. But Hegseth was a Trump groupie and is a huge advocate for, a quick advocate for soon and quick construction of the Third Temple. I don't have the video, but back in 2018, he made a fiery speech about getting the Third Temple built as soon as quickly as possible. This is interesting. I want you to hang on to this because you're actually going to notice that most of Trump's picks aren't America first. They're Israel first. And I think this is interesting. We'll get to that. Hang on to it. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I just wanted to put that out there. That's... You'll notice that most of his picks are actually Israel first, not America first. And I think this is big on possibly what's going on prophetically as we move forward, where we're starting to see God's eyes move more and more and more over to Israel on this. Of course, we've got Marco Rubio, who was picked for Secretary of State. I'm not going to go through this dude's laundry list of problems, but he's a deep stater, a socialist, anti-United States. He's part of the woke agenda support, and he's just a puppet, a stooge that will do whatever he's being paid to do. His bank account has been so flooded with lobbyist money, it's absolutely ridiculous. We're aware of this guy. He's a clown. He's a deep stater. That was an absolutely ridiculous choice on that one. Let's move down to... Matt Gaetz picked as Attorney General. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Mr. Botox. Everybody knows Matt Gaetz, right? He picked Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, who is a bot stooge with mountains of pedophilia accusations and sexual ethics complaints against him. Yeah, this is the dude that was out there with reports from people in Congress saying Matt Gaetz walks around and was showing photos of underage women that he took across border and slept with. But that all whisked away. Just disappear. Bye-bye. Why? Because if you watch many of the videos while Congress is currently in session, you'll see somebody come over, whisper something in his ear, his face drops, and then all of a sudden his vote changes the next time that they convene for a vote. Because they've got dirt on him. They've got blackmail on him. Gaetz also argued against reevaluating Epstein's easy punishment. So he was arguing that Epstein didn't need a stronger punishment to protect him. As well as Gaetz is a very close friend and associate of a guy by the name of Chuck Johnson, who's also a protector of Epstein and has been protesting for the Free Ghislaine Maxwell campaign. Johnson, Gaetz' friend here, is also close associates of Peter Thiel. Pedos unite. Pedos unite. Let's keep going. Trump also picked Lee Zeldin, who is for head of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Zeldin here is connected to the Climate Solutions Caucus, as well as Conservative Climate Caucus. To join that, you must recognize climate change, as well as understand the caucus's support of carbon pricing and carbon tax. Yes, even the Republicans are going with the carbon tax. Yep. A little thing that's going to go hand in hand with the currency that often gets forgot about when it comes to this. They also have a similar agenda to the carbon credit system, as well as nature financing. Remember when I did a whole thing about the natural assets financing that they were going to do, where they want to turn environment into investment opportunities to make money off of it? Yes, he's in favor and in support of that. Fun times. We got another fun one here. Mike Waltz was picked for National Security Advisor. Strap in for this one, boys and girls. Waltz is also part of the Conservative Climate Caucus. Waltz is also a war hawk with China and Iran. He wants to go to war with both of them. Was part of the planning staff for the National Guard's coup response effort. He supported the 2021 and 2022 NDAA, which, if you don't remember, in 2022, the NDAA was to allow women to be drafted into the military. He supported that. He also made bank with his defense contracting group, Metis Solutions, which was about training Afghani soldiers. Yes. Congressmen seeking to relaunch Afghan war made millions in defense contracting. But I thought Trump was against the military-industrial complex. That's what everybody's been telling me. But the evidence says otherwise. Florida Republican Michael Waltz made up to $25 million from the sales of Metis Solutions, a defense contractor with a spotty record training Afghan security forces. Few lawmakers are as outspoken about the end of the war in Afghanistan as Michael Waltz, a Republican from Florida's 6th congressional district. In recent weeks, Waltz has called on President Joe Biden to reverse course, relaunch military operations in the region, and crush the Taliban offensive by committing American air power supported by special forces. The Florida congressman was warned darkly of an Al-Qaeda 3.0 and stated that no negotiations should take place with the Taliban until the situation is stabilized militarily. Basically, he took his military contracting group out there, defense contracting group, went out there and started training the enemy and made bank off of it. Does that sound like CIA? Does that sound like globalist? Does that sound like deep state? Does to me. Does to me. If that's not enough, however, Waltz also voted for the Respect for Marriage Act, which codified homosexual marriage as federal law. So he's for homosexual marriage, and he was also Dick Cheney's counterterrorism advisor. That's just a little cherry on top of that one. That's who Trump picked for National Security Advisor. Wow. Fun times. Now, there's other people with this, but what I'm eagerly watching for is the Treasury Secretary. That's what I'm waiting for. Trump hasn't picked one yet. There's a few people, a few names that have been thrown out. One apparently is in the lead for it. Now, we don't know who it's going to be yet, but I took a look at the guy who's in the lead because I wanted to know what was going on. And so apparently the guy in the lead for Trump to pick for Treasury Secretary is a guy by the name of Scott Bessent. Swamp. Money manager Scott Bessent of 84 on failure choosing a major in how finances like journalism. Scott Bessent currently serves as the chief investment officer of Soros Fund Management, a $30 billion family office. After graduation, Bessent went to work at Brown Brothers Harriman, then did stints at Kiniko's associate, the Soros Fund, Protege Partners, and others before George Soros recruited him as the CIO in 2011. In August, Bessent announced that he will leave at the end of the year with a $2 billion allocation from Soros himself to start his own hedge fund. Along with that, the George Soros partner who disrupted right-wing publishing, All Seasons Press, founded by billionaire investor Scott Bessent, has a funny habit of signing big-name MAGA authors to book contracts, then suing them. Let's keep going. Bessent worked for Soros from 1991 to 2000, rising the firm's head of European allocation by his department, and returned to Soros from 2011 to 2015 as the fund's chief investment officer, departing again to run Key Square with a $2 billion investment from the 94-year-old Soros. I think he'd be outstanding as Treasury Secretary, said Senator Lindsey Graham. Oh, that's a ringing endorsement if I've ever heard one before. So Scott Bessent, who primarily lives in Charleston, South Carolina, with his husband, John Freeman, and their 2 children. That is child abuse. absolutely child abuse, could be the first Senate-approved alphabet member in a Republican candidate. Remember, Richard Grinnell became the first openly gay acting cabinet member when Trump tapped him as the acting director of national intelligence in 2020. That's not all. Bessent was also part of the Soros fund management, and in 1992, he led the team that helped crash the British pound, which is known as Black Wednesday. Go and look it up. That was George Soros and Scott Bessent who crashed the pound back in 1992. Along with that, Bessent also has a seat at Rockefeller University, if that wasn't enough. Apparently, he's in the lead to be picked for Treasury Secretary. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Now, again, he's got other picks and stuff. I didn't look into all of them. But the overarching theme on this is most are Israel first, not the United States first. Now, why is this so important? Because I believe this fits into the idea that the focus is shifting to Israel as we prepare for post-rapture prophecies. I believe Trump was purposely installed to push forward the Israel first agenda. Why? Well, I've talked about this a lot. The Freemasons have orchestrated this. Freemasons, Albert Pike's 3 World Wars. So far, the first 2 have planned out exactly as they planned them, to get things ready for the state of Israel, to create the state of Israel, which, of course, and many people still don't like this, but it was the Rothschilds who came in along with the Freemasons and the British government to establish the nation of Israel. Of course, that was 1948, which Israel became a nation overnight, which that was prophecy being fulfilled. God used evil men to fulfill his prophecy. And now I believe that they want to do this. Why? Why do they want this? Well, first of all, we know World War III is going to kick off over there. That's what the Freemasons have said. World War III is going to kick off between the state of Israel and Islam. And things are obviously getting prepped for that. Also, another thing that they want to do is the absolute obsession with the Freemasons wanting to build the third temple. I did a thing on this on my End Times New Age series where I talked about the Freemasons and their obsession with King Solomon. And if you guys don't, the Star of David, that's what the Freemasons believe gave Solomon his power through his ring. It has the Star of David on there. And because he was known as the magician, able to do all these powerful things and whatnot, they want that temple built. And so we have so many people, including like Hegseth and Trump and Kushner and all these people that want to build that temple. And so the best way to do that is to build an Israel first group as opposed to a United States group first, which I think is very, very interesting. Having a heavy influence of pro-Israel seems to line up with getting things set for the Middle East. And so if we take a look at some of the stuff that's going on, as far as this goes, we can see Jared Kushner is expected to be pivotal to Trump's admin in the Middle East without taking a formal job. So kind of like how Vivek and Musk don't technically have a formal job within the government, but they're still influencing and working on things. Jared Kushner is going to do the same thing because he's been one of the lead guys when it comes to establishing connections between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And of course, as I said before, we can see here the next U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called for the new Jewish temple to be built on the Temple Mount. Along with that, people don't realize, even going back to his first administration, the idea and obsession of Trump being the king of Israel has continued all the way up until now, ultimately. Here's just a few things. This is a mix between 2018 and now. Christian and Jews are now compared Trump to Persian King Cyrus. Will he build the third temple? I've been seeing even the prophecy guys saying this. This is like Cyrus 2,500 years ago. Trump is seen as an instrument of God. They're all instruments of God if they're in power because he's using them. He raises them up and brings them down. And the plan to build the third temple on the Temple Mount. It says right here, who's King Cyrus and why did Netanyahu compare him to Trump? People aren't going to like this, but Bibi Netanyahu is a globalist as well. I've talked about the things that he's involved with that. We can see here why Trump is being compared to the obscure King Jehu on the Christian right. Messianic community leaders declared Donald Trump a trumpet of God. Then we can see here, this was back in 2019, Trump tweets quotes calling him the second coming of God to Jews in Israel. And these aren't Trump's words, but he's quoting from somebody who did say them. And obviously he's in support if he's doing just that. It says, thank you to Wayne Allen Root for the very nice words. President Trump is the greatest president for the Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. He is the best president for Israel in the history of the world, and the Jewish people in Israel love him. Like he's the king of Israel. They love him like he is the second coming of God, but American Jews don't know him or like him. They don't even know what they're doing or saying anymore. It makes no sense, but that's okay if it keeps going the way that they're doing. Wow, man. That's some blasphemous words if I've ever seen it before. But this is how I seem to see things going, is moving in that direction when it comes to this. Now,